Now then, viewers and friends, this is Home Life in Lockdown number 8, and it's a bit unusual because there's one bit where we're not here, but we'll follow on with that in a moment. So there are not as many links this time on this video, but I'd ask you to look at the back catalogue of my videos because there's over 300 of them, and there's lots of interesting stuff there, and it relates to something that I'm going to say just a bit later on. This is not a long protracted discussion, it's quite a short one, but I'm asking you to please comment, like, and if you haven't already done so, subscribe. It all helps to promote these videos a bit more and get the word out there, and the word out there really is low impact and reducing your impact on the general world around you, because most of it is rather unnecessary. Anyway, this video we've got a bit about the woods, and the wild garlic is now in flower, which is great. Shame we don't have smelly vision because the smell is quite strong. We had to go, and I'm reading my notes here because I want to make this concise. We had to go and help somebody move a static caravan, and of course, you know, we're in lockdown, but we're out in the sticks, and we made sure that all the social distancing was in place. And when you're out in the middle of nowhere, you can do that quite easily, as long as everybody is aware of it. I mean, I've noticed in town there's a lot of people who just don't seem to take any notice. You know, I was driving through, this is on the way to this this site where we're going to move this static caravan, and there were people just chatting in the street quite close to each other. Either the word's not got around or they just don't care. Anyway, there you go, because it's the whole thing there, as Max Iron Thumper said, was don't be part of the problem. Yeah, so there you go. Anyway, we used 2 turfer winches to move that static. It was a 28-foot one, so you might find that quite interesting. Where else have we got? Interestingly enough, you know, when you're out in the sticks, the general land-based industries are continuing in a sort of modified way, and the lots of forestry people I know, they just say, I've been in isolation for 35 years, makes no difference, you know, because that's the way we work. Another bit in there is to do with refurbing the headstock on the wood lathe. I thought I'm going to have a go, and I went down a certain way, well, a certain way of thinking, and I think we've got there, but there might have been a lot easier way to do it, put it like that. Yeah, and you know how you sort of get a general idea and you go with it, and if you just sat back a bit, well, or made it halfway and then gone, do you know what, there's an easier way of doing this, but we'll give it a road test. Perhaps in part 9 we could see it working. So we've also got Uncle Harold's power hacksaw, his homemade power hacksaw. That makes another performance. And then we're talking about colour, because pink and green and brown are a real problem for me, because I'm partially colourblind. And we did do a while ago, and I'm going to put a link in the video there. I spoke to Matt Gregory about this. Now, if you've not seen the Matt Gregory videos, he's an artist. They're quite entertaining. Yeah, well worth a view there. So, coming back right to the start, and we're nearly done now. Low impact is about basically increasing your resilience to the trials and tribulations of life, and it's reducing financial slavery, because a lot of people put themselves in financial slavery. Yeah, they just, for no apparent reason. Maybe it's to do with ego, or a lack of self-confidence, or putting out an image into general society. There's no need for that. If you know where you're at and you feel confident with yourself, then you don't need to impress lots of other people. And confidence can be built by gaining skills, and skills help with low impact. So you can start at the beginning, and the basic, well, one of the really easy ways is to change your energy supplier to 100% renewable. Now, I spoke to somebody a couple of months ago, and I said you should change your energy supplier, and they went, we've looked at that and it will cost about £1 a month extra. So I said to them, so in other words, a clean environment to you isn't worth £1 a month. And of course, you know, that puts it in a different perspective. And they couldn't say anything about that, because, you know, a clean environment is worth a fortune to all of us, and we all ought to be going in that route, which is why none of us should use an aeroplane again. Yeah? They're all whining and moaning, oh, we're going out of business, but they've been polluting the atmosphere for decades and not even paying tax on it. Now, and even if they were paying tax on it, it's still not worth the pollution. Anyway, let's get on with the video. I thought I'd better catch this. Now this, as we've looked at before, is ransoms or wild garlic. And it is the 25th of April. And looky there. Can we get close in? Will it focus? Let's get a bit closer. But the leaf on the canopy is starting to come out, and the light levels down here on the woodland floor are starting to reduce. But these are busy flowering away, and I can smell them quite strongly. Let's just see if I can get closer still. There we go. Brilliant. And as I said again on that a previous woodland walk, we put some corms or some bulbs here quite a long time ago, 20 years ago. Just a few, and it's starting to spread everywhere, which is great. There you go. So planting your own woodlands can have a huge effect as long as you plant it on ex-agricultural ground. You're reversing habitat destruction, you're capturing carbon, you're providing habitat, you're widening the diversity. What more can one say about one's life? Okay, we've been moving this caravan, this static, about 30 yards with the turfer winches, and as you could see, the drawbar has got is on its last legs. But we've got a big strop that goes from one, don't know if we can see here, just in there. Where are we? We've got a strop there, and we've got a strop, same strop the other side. So it's pulling off the chassis, and we're trying to steer it with two turfer winches. And I just thought we'd just try and catch the last bit. We've got about another 12 feet to go, but it's guesswork. So let's just see what happens. Camera running. all you'll hear is the clicking of purple winches and the creaking and groaning
Of women.
I certainly hope not.
Of the helpers then.
Right, so the wheels are running on blocks, so we just have to be very careful not to go off the blocks because it's sand, and we don't want those wheels to go down. That'd be more stress. That's enough, Carol. What? Hang on, Carol. All right. I'm not quite sure whether we're in the right place. Hang on. Coming off the boards.
Do you want me to take a wee bit more tension first?
No.
Okay.
I'm not too sure.
I've got an obstruction here which is slowing it down. There's a brick under the board. I've tried to get it out, but it's too tight now.
Shall we release some pressure a bit from this side?
Yeah, okay.
Is it making the board tip?
Yeah. Still a bit more.
We might end up against this tree.
Ah, yeah.
So I'm going to reset the winch.
More extreme that way.
Yeah, I'm going to reset the winch over there so we can pull the caravan that way a bit more. This line goes through the hedge across the road to a post the other side of the road. So we'll just lower that and remove it for a minute and get this strop set up.
And I'll leave the tension off this one.
Yes. Okay. I'm pulling at that angle rather than that angle. So hopefully the van will do that slightly, and we've got a winch and cable there just to make sure it doesn't spin round like that. Contact! Hang on.
Right, I think stop there.
Hang on a minute. Not a lot. Bit more.
Alright, keep going.
Well, it's bottoming out on the ground, I think.
Yeah.
Wave, wave,
It might have sunk into the sand, is what I'm thinking.
wave.
Oh, go on, bit of tension. Yeah. Well, it'll roll.
Give me a minute. I wasn't expecting so much movement. Let that door finish just on the tree.
Probably enough.
Right. Give it some. Oh, right. We're off. We're nearly off the board.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be high or low? Right, let me get lower.
Let me just winch it this way a bit.
It's something's breaking a bit
At the
on
back.
here.
Is it?
The waste pipe, I think. It's the waste pipe thing.
Is it?
Yeah.
We had a board underneath it.
No, we had a board right at the back, but
Yeah.
there's a bit of.
Hold it up enough.
Do you want me to put a brick on? No, it's a bit of waste pipe. It's sticking down there.
Ah,
So,
yeah.
Do you want me to put a brick underneath it?
no, that won't do anything. We need the front to come down. That'll have to do, Carol. I'll sit on the front
Okay.
and you winch
Win.
sideways.
Alright.
Hang on a minute. See if we can just get some.
Is that? Oh, not going to work.
It's not going to work. Just give it some winch.
Okay. Move down a bit. Good. Are you alright?
Yeah, go on.
Okay. Hang on, I've got no tension at the minute. Off it.
That's this straight. That's straight.
Not quite.
It is.
We're close on the
Well-
tree. Close on the tree at the front here.
Yeah, it's so easy.
Okay.
Trees too close on it.
Well, I think that
Is that near as damn it is to swearing?
I can't see from here.
I'm just going to switch the camera off before we get any more foul language. Now, do you remember I said build a habitat and they will come and live in it, right? Well, this is an interesting one. Let's just zoom in. What have we got there? Hey? It's not cement. Let's just get closer. I've just noticed this. This is probably from last year and it's been that dry, and now yesterday and today, well, yesterday we finished moving that mobile home static caravan, and then half an hour later you could feel rain in the air. So we just cracked on sufficiently, and of course, you know, all due social distancing and all that sort of thing carried on, so there wasn't any threat, but it's just a job that needed doing. Let's just have a closer look on this. As you can see, so it's obviously not live at the moment, or I wouldn't be doing this, but it's a wasp nest, and I suspect it's, well, the damp weather will just slowly make it degrade. I'm just going to zoom in because that's all wood fibre. The various different colours. You remember I showed you a queen wasp? I'm not sure which home life in lockdown it was, but there was a big queen wasp gnawing some of the surface timber off the glass house, and of course that's what it makes. Just spin it over. See how delicate it is?
Very light.
Yes, and if you look at the top there, see how that's pulled away? Well, I think it was hung up in that oh look, there's the comb. Let's zoom in. There you go. I think it was hung up by the top, and so therefore if we look in the cement mixer we should see where it's
this is quite stiff, but this is very soft and papery.
Yeah. Right, let's go and have a look in the mixer then. So I've just tipped the mixing bowl up, and just there you can see a bit of fibre. Focus. And that's where it was hung. Now no one didn't see it because it was hung up underneath the right in the back of the bowl, and that paddle was obviously at the top, so therefore it was snuck right back in the back there. So there you go. Interesting, eh? So I've removed the tool rest and then offered the tailstock up against the headstock. So let's just go and have a look. It's not in line. It's not bad for a wood turning lathe, but it's not in line. So effectively well, let's have a look. So the headstock is about 5mm too high, and if you look from here the tailstock is about 2mm that way. So when that headstock's right over 2.5 feet away, it doesn't make a huge amount of difference. But if we're going to make a new, let's just zoom out. If we're going to make a new mounting here, we might as well get it half decently right, hadn't we? So this lot wants to come down about the half the thickness of that piece of plywood, and that'll do really. So let's have a measure up and go as far as we can see. So that wants to be, let's do it in metric, because I find metric a bit easier for the smaller graduations. That wants to be 238. Let's just push that down. 239. 239. Now then, outside to outside of this is 265. .265. Right, now how wide is the motor plate? The motor plate is 216. .216. Okay. Now then, it's going to be a bit tricky to measure between there and there. We don't have to be absolutely perfect. So that there is 135. It's 135. 135. Let's draw it on the motor. Down to there. 135. Okay. And we had it that this was 5mm too high. So therefore that wants to be, that's to there, not to there. Let's just see. I might be getting my figures wrong. It wants to go off the top of the plywood. It is 135. So basically it wants to be 130mm. Less 5 equals 130. And if it's a little bit low, then we can always pack it up with a shim. If it's too high, it's a bit of a pain. So let's going to have to do a quick drawing just to work out what we want to do. Okay, on these figures I've rounded stuff up and down. So our bed width is 265. Okay, so we'll allow a little bit of tolerance on that. And this angle line is 40mm by 40mm. So the motor could sit in 2 little pieces of angle iron. So if I wanted to, I could put some holes and thread some holes and put some bolts in there just to move the motor, the headstock, sidewards to align it. So that would do, and then it would bolt down through that angle iron. So there'd be some tolerance on the bolt holes. So all we want to do then is connect that to that. So we could either have some box section there, but more likely it would probably be better to have some box section like that. So that could be clamped to that. So we cut those box sections, 4 of them, 2 at the front, 2 at the back, and they can be clamped square to this piece of angle iron, flush with the top, and that means that each side frame's in the right place. Then we could make cut a piece of plywood and put 4 holes in it, and we could bolt it to this to hold that lot together, and then offer it up to these bits here. We've got to have plenty of sort of leeway in this, because we can always shim it out a bit. We're not talking precision engineer here, we're talking a bit of a stronger mount that won't allow the whole assembly to twist sideways when you put a lot of pressure on the tailstock. It's different from a metal turning lathe, in so much as it's the tool that will be putting pressure on the work if it's not sharp enough, whereas with a wood turning lathe you're putting pressure on the with the tailstock onto the work to keep it in place. So I'm just going to cut some pieces. I'm just going to work out the length of that. Those 4 bits of box section, and go and hunt around. Can you see what I mean? Ignore that there, and we have a piece of box section that goes against that angle iron and all the way down there. Yeah, so I've roughly calculated that will be 22mm. So we can come down there, and that will probably overhang a little bit, and if we wanted to we could notch it round, but I don't think that would be necessary. So some fairly heavy duty box section, either inch or inch and a quarter, quite thick wall, so we can get a really good weld on it. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Okay, I've changed my mind because apparently I've got one. Instead of that going like that, I've decided for that to go like that. It will give greater flexibility. Okay, so there'll be one either side like that. It also works out with the general geometry. So, just to check things, between the, now I've taken the headstock off its block, I can go between the base and the point, which is mostly symmetrical, and that is 111 mil. Okay, remember that, 111. Then that's about 1 mil thick, and then we can go from there to the point, which is the whole point of it, and that goes to 2-3, yeah, it's halfway between the two. Let's call it 237 plus 1 for that, so it's 238 and 111. Okay, so I've clamped those together and they are flush on the ends, and it is square across there like that. So I can now just tack those, tack there and tack there, make sure it's square again, and then weld her up, and that will then go like that, and the headstock will bolt on there. Once I'm happy with all this lot, of course I can fill those in. Just sort of, it just works out a bit better this way. What I've done here, I really didn't want to go welding upstairs in the workshop, so I've set these two trestles at 266 apart, and the bed of the lathe is 265. Allows a little bit of wobble, and then I've clamped the bed plates, as it were, onto these lumps of angle iron either side. So that's that. We've got a big hefty lump of steel here clamped down, and a piece of box section clamped down there, so it's all quite rigid. So let's just move round to here. Okay, so we've got the midpoint there between the two rails. Okay, so all we need to do, just to cross-reference, is we put a square on that midpoint. There we are. And it's right on the point there. So that's good. So now what we want to do is check the height. It needs to be 238, and from the bottom of there to there is 238. So that's good enough. The only thing I need to do now really is check that this is running parallel with the bed rails, and the way to do that, I'm just checked down the side here, it looks the same, but I'll take a centre line at the back from the middle of the pulley and just see if we're very close. Remember, we're talking wood turning here, so very close is perfect. There's the point directly below there, and I use that line there from this fenner taper lock bush to square down, and then I've squared up from the rails, and that is 130 and that is 136. So the whole thing wants to stay at the front and just move round this way, just a tadget. Is that right? No, it's the other way. Stupid me. Okay, so we want to be at 135 or 134. 134. We want to be there. So we weren't very far away from it. So we're in line there, and we go down, and we're in line there. That's grand. So I've just checked the front, and it seems to all work out where it needs to be. So the thing to do now is get the arc welder out and just weld this up. Just tack opposites to lock everything in place first. I'm just going to crack on with that. So just on the edge of the veg plot, we've got this foxglove, and coming round, we've had that bit of rain the last couple of days, so these carrots are going to start bombing on, and it won't be long. You can see they've got their true leaves now. Won't be long before we'll be thinning those. And coming sidewards, can't quite see where we are, let's just zoom out a bit. There we go. The next row is in, so that's another full row, but they were put in later. So that first row was the tubes that were germinated in the conservatory. The second row was germinated in the glass house. There's the difference, isn't that amazing? Yeah. Next thing we've got is the bee borage is out, and of course the bumblebees, except it's just gone. I'm just trying to see, there's a bumblebee, and away it goes. They're so quick you wouldn't think it, but there you go, they're off. So the borage, there we go. Where do we see that? There's that stick. There. Ah. They love it. I can't keep up with them. See? They're loving that borage, which is great. That's why we keep it there. It self-seeds everywhere, and we have to weed some of it out, but the bees are just going for it. And just coming sideways before we finish this video, here is some kale, and it's in flower, so we shall get some seed off that, collect that for future sowings. And just there we got chives out in flower, or just about to flower and seed. And just behind it, whether or not I can see this or not, there we got the first of the strawberry flowers. Yeah, and they're really, now we've had some wet, they'll be away. It's really nice to come out first thing in the morning, pick a couple of fresh strawberries for breakfast. Yeah, can't beat it. Yeah. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and I will catch up with you soon. Cheers for now.